1978, as a result of the walk in 1978, came about the Indian Religious Freedom Act, which is supposed to preserve and help protect Indian sacred sites. But even today, we're still under threat of sacred areas. For example, in Lake Tahoe area, a sacred mountain there is called Cave Rock. It's being used for rock climbing, which is goes against the belief of Native people of that area. In Nevada as well, you have a very sacred mountain, Sand Mountain, where it's probably for hundreds and maybe thousands of miles where the sand has accumulated there and it's became a big mountain. And for the Native people of that area, it's a very sacred mountain. But Native people there are not given access to that mountain. But yet, they turn it into a recreational park where four-wheelers and vehicles like that are allowed to go up the Sand Mountain and serve as recreational. So these, to me, are some of the blatant disrespect of sacred areas. We could talk about the hundreds of sacred sites. For example, in South Dakota, Bear Butte, one of the sacred areas to many of the tribes in the plains, the Lakotas and Apaches and the Cheyennes. Well, there, Bear Butte, which is a butte that arises out in the middle of the plains there, is very sacred to those nations and tribes. Well, every year you have over 500,000 motorcycles that converge into the area there called Rapid City, South Dakota. And this is at a time when many of the people there are having their ceremonies. At the time when many people go to Bear Butte for vision quests. Well, that happens. There's an abuse there. If you were there, which I was a couple of years ago, and I've been there, a couple of other times, when you see these thousands of motorcycles just in and around the sacred area, it's no wonder why many of the people there that are having their vision quests or having ceremonies there cannot have peace there. That's just one. Another one is in California, a very sacred area called Medicine Lake, which is very sacred to many of the California tribes. And Medicine Lake is an area that they're using for geothermal to develop energy development. And there's another area called San Francisco Peaks in the southwest in Arizona. San Francisco Peaks there, it's a ski resort on top of the mountain there. Well, just too recently they want to use reclaimed wastewater to make snow for the tourists there, for people to have their skiing there. So to us, to a lot of Native people there, that's again another intrusion upon their way of life and another lack of respect for their way of life. So these are just a few examples of many of the sacred areas across this land, that many Native people are still trying to preserve and protect. And for us on the longest walk too, that is one of the main issues that we would like to bring out to a lot of the Native American people, to a lot of the American people, that these sacred areas are still very important to our people today. And the other message that we carry is that all life is sacred. We talk about the relationship that we have with the environment, the relationship that we share with all the plants, the animals. For us, everything on this planet is alive, including this Mother Earth. And what's happening to it today in terms of the destruction of it, I guess you could say the digging for gold, the coal mining, the water extractions, many of those things that we don't really look at and see to it how it's going to affect the planet, the Earth itself. Even scientists are finding out now the climate change, how this affects and what's happening. so for me, these are very important issues that many of our people today are reaching out and trying to raise awareness. One of the things that we also want to talk about is our ancestors. We call them our MIAs, our missing Indian ancestors. We're talking about the ancestral remains that are locked away in museums, that are locked away in institutions of universities and colleges, being studied on by anthropologists and other people that want to find out who Native people are. Well, for us, this is one of the most disrespectful things for Native people, is to desecrate our ancestors. We're asking and calling that all these sacred things be returned back to the original peoples, to those tribes and nations that they were taken and stolen from. And I say stolen because many of those things that were taken, sacred things, were actually stolen. And in time of war, the military had a way of going in and just taking all the sacred things. When they killed Indians, they took their sacred medicine bundles. So for me, a lot of these things are still locked away in museums. They're locked away in private collections. And so for us, you know, this is very important to the survival of our Indian nations. And so when we started out on this walk on February 11th of this year, and now we're almost to Washington, D.C., 4.5 months later, you know, we're still, we have gained a lot of support. We have raised a lot of issues. We have received proclamations from the governor of Pennsylvania here. We've received proclamations from Kansas, from Colorado, from St. Louis, from Illinois, from Indiana, supporting our cause. And so today, as we begin today here in this Farmington, Pennsylvania, where there was a powwow that was organized in honor of the Longest Walk 2, we came here to show our support, to help raise money and much needed resources for our walk. We'll be continuing today, even as we're speaking now. We do have walkers that are walking from Bedford to Chambersburg. And from Chambersburg, we'll be walking to the Carlisle Indian School. Carlisle Indian School, if you know the history of Carlisle, which at one time was a boarding school, where many of the so-called solution to the Indian problem was to colonize the native person and Indian children. And so what resulted was many Indian kids were taken away from their homes, taken away from their reservation. And a lot of them died there. There's even unmarked graves there. And so part of this journey here is we're going to stop here and pay and respect, you know, those ancestors in that way as well. From there, we'll be going to Lewisburg, Pennsylvania. Lewisburg, Pennsylvania, where one of our Indian leaders is incarcerated, Leonard Peltier, and many other Native people. And Native people there in Lewisburg are denied to practice their religion, denied to have ceremonies, denied to have sacred eagle feathers, denied to have sacred tobacco.
Why are they being denied that right?
Well, they're being denied because they say it's a security precaution. You know, and to me, I think that's a way that, you know, I mean, it's no different than having the cross. It's no different than having the Bible. It's no different than having any of those sacred things. It's just their lack of ignorance, their lack of understanding. You know, to me, I even take it a little bit further. I believe strongly that the only reason that they disallow Native people to have these sacred things is because they know how strong we are. They know how powerful we are, and how these ways have always made our people cherished, nourished, grow, and happily. And I strongly believe that the intent of this United States government is to keep our people oppressed. And one way to keep them oppressed is to take away their spirituality, or to legislate a certain kind of spirituality. So for me, I believe that this is one of the ways that we have to begin to come back and
do you think the new president will, whomever it is, will be helpful to the Native American people?
Well, if they were helpful, they should have started it way back.
Right.
To me, you know, I have I guess, hope in this system, this democracy. I think if we talk about true democracy, we have to talk about how Native people are included all together, not just a handful, but everyone. And for Native people, you know, I strongly believe that we as Native people still have a lot of the keys to the survival of many nations today. And I hope that through this walk, that people can begin to heal, not only from the Native American point of view, but also from the non-Indigenous point of view. Healing